Welcome to Uncoached, a podcast for volunteer coaches and parents figuring out youth sports as we go. Each episode, we keep things simple, 5 questions to talk about practical insights that you can actually use with your athletes. I'm very excited about my guest today. His name is David Gerson, otherwise known on social media as the voice of referees, and his channel's Refs Need Love Too. Thanks for being here, David. As a soccer coach myself, every time you post something, some knowledge out there, I pay a lot of attention. I love what you're doing. You're being that voice for officials who, let's be honest, they take a lot of heat at any level of organized sport. And I was just wanting to get you on to help echo some of the good positive vibes that you're putting out there on the side of the official, on the side of the referee. So if you do me a big favor and just tell me a little bit about your background and what led you to create Refs Need Love Too.
Yeah, happy to, Brad, and I'm thrilled to be here. First and foremost, I would just say we are all in this together, right? So there is no ref, there is no game, but if there is no coach, or players or the parents willing to get their kids to the game, there's no game. And so we have to come together to create a positive, supportive environment for the kids together. The referees are not an externality. The coaches are not a complete externality. The parents, we're all in on one team when it comes to our kids and engaging them in a fun team-based sport, whatever the sport may be, if it's baseball, if it's American football, if it's soccer, hockey, whatever. There are so many wonderful benefits that come from that, and we need to work together to create the right environment for those kids to develop and grow. That's the first thing. Secondly, my approach to this, I have a little bit of an advantage over many young social media creators out there. I spent about 27 years as a corporate sales trainer, marketer, product developer for big corporate entities. And my last big corporate job was an $11 billion company with over 50,000 employees. And I'm running brand and I'm running PR and social media and marketing. So I have a bit of a different approach. Yes, my channel started as a complete joke and just a bit of a creative outlet for me. Honestly, I was, approaching 50 years old and really starting to, just find myself to be creatively stifled and needed an outlet. And social media provided that for me. But it's quickly, you'd say overnight success, 4 years in the making. But it went from just me, kind of joking around, having fun in my basement to all of a sudden creating a platform and community, that's known throughout the world. Yesterday, I posted a video. And I guess I could share this here, but literally, one of the most decorated referees in the world who's officiated at 3 World Cups and 4 Olympics, texted me. It was like, great job on that video. You're spot on. And so
I love that.
So I've got, pro refs all around the world, parents, players, coaches, who are now looking to me to do a couple things. Number one, they enjoy see the human side of a referee, which they really haven't been able to see before historically. They've always been, separated from everyone, don't speak to the public,
Right.
No public profile, never explain any decisions. And so they love that they can have a human perspective of what it's like being a referee. But then they also want a layman. As much as I am a layman, I've got 11 years of officiating experience now as a soccer ref, but, helping people understand the call, not only what happened, like literally here's what happened, but here are the considerations that a referee has to go through when making those decisions. And I do this for, like yesterday with a World Cup game, but I also do this for U8,
Right.
girls recreational
Right.
game. Like
Yes.
I put those clips in my profile because I want people, because that's what most people deal with. They're yelling about handball in a U10 recreational match
Yeah.
or something like that. And I try and help them understand. It's not a handball offense. Let's talk about that.
Right.
Here's what the referee is, thinking about here, and here's the guidance we've been given. So it's been a wild ride. I'm having a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see where else it takes me.
No, it's fantastic, and I hope you just keep growing because I think your voice is needed. I as a coach, right? I on the sidelines, I hear offsides, complaints all the time. That's got to be one of the bigger ones. I won't put you on
Yeah.
the spot, but it's got to be one of the bigger ones along with the handball situations. But you
Mhm.
providing that education, I think, is super needed. So it's fantastic that you're filling this gap area that I think a lot of us have and need. And
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time educating people about referees, like you're talking about, right behind the scenes, and you're putting a little personality to the referee. What's some of the biggest or maybe the biggest misconception parents and coaches have about how officials are making decisions during a game?
Wow. Let me go back to the beginning of that question about the human side of being a referee, that these people are all, human beings
Of course.
with
Yes.
feelings, with parents and children and brothers and sisters and cousins and uncles and aunts. And especially when you talk about recreational soccer or recreational sports or whatever the sport is that they're playing, these are people in your community making millions of dollars. They're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Certainly.
every
They're not
single
making
year. I
hundreds
mean,
of dollars.
seriously, after you buy all the equipment and all the certifications and all the things that you need to do, you're barely making any money to compensate you for your time, the food you got to eat when you're there, the gas you got to get there, or the uniform, all that kind of stuff. They are just doing the best they possibly can with very little training at the local level. At the professional level, yes, these people are compensated, but let me tell you, this is an outrageously difficult life. You don't get to be on television officiating matches if you have not already toiled for 15 years, okay, for next to no money. There's a lot of people that they think they see a referee on a field. There's only about 5 or 6 out of the people who work in pro, our professional referee organization here in the United States, who do like our professional matches. Only 5 or 6 of them actually do that as a full-time job.
Wow.
Almost all of them have to supplement their income through some other means
Yeah.
possible. It's very difficult to make it by, especially if you're an assistant referee. You're not always like the referee in the middle of the pitch. You've got to do many other jobs to get there. And so I just want that to be a thing. It's like these people, they have entered into a life that there is no love.
Yeah.
When they finish a match, generally speaking, 50% of the people are apathetic to them and the other 50% hate them because they lost.
Mhm.
Not whether the referee did a good job, not whether they made good calls, but again, their team loses. Who do we blame? The referee. So these people have chosen this very difficult life in service and sacrifice to the game, that they love. It is just very difficult. So I really do try to help show that human side, that these are, again, people who care, often love the game, as much, if not more, than anyone else, to choose to do this.
Right.
They're that passionate about it. And again, if you care about the game in your local community, aside from being a coach, which I think is fantastic, the next best thing, if not equal, is being a referee. Because let me tell you, a poorly ref game is a bad experience for everyone. It's bad for the coach, bad for the
Yeah.
players, bad for the kids. Yeah, absolutely. A well-refed game is a wonderful experience for everyone. And if you care about the future of whatever your sport is, become a referee. Because again, a well-ref game, you're going to have people who will fall in love with that game, enjoy the experience, and they'll want to come back and stick with it for a long time.
Tell me this. So in a lot of so outside of club teams that I coach, I also do rec. And in those
Mhm.
rec, sometimes this is dealing with like Catholic schools and things like that.
Yep.
And there's a lot of training that goes on for young refs, right? We've got 7th graders out there, 8th grade kids that are out there roughing sometimes. And I'm talking the games that they're reffing are younger kids, right? 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. But they're starting to train them a little bit at a young age to become a ref. What's some advice? Like, it sounds like it's a grind out there, but like, what do you love about reffing that you would convey to these young kids that want to ref?
First, I got to question the premise of the question. Like, they're getting a lot of training. Like, I'd be shocked. Like, getting a lot of training is a rare thing for referees. I mean, I would just say, aside from some type of community recreational
Yeah.
program, like for junior referees, where they might be mentoring them, which is wonderful. Generally, in the United States of America, and I'll just speak to soccer, which is my expertise, when you get certified as a referee, you take an online course
Yeah.
that anyone can pass with minimal knowledge. You're sitting watching TV one day and you're just clicking through and you guess the answers, you'll be fine. And then some states, some, not all, do a 3-hour in person referee course, which, by the way, in 3 hours, all you can do is pretty much tell them, here's the uniform you need to wear. Here's how to do a field inspection. Here's how you hold the flag, and this is what the flag's supposed to look like.
Right.
You don't get into foul recognition. You don't talk about what a handball decision is. You don't talk about deliberate play and offside. You don't talk about any of those things. And then you're certified. And then you're done.
That's tough. Yeah.
And there's zero investment from Georgia soccer or my state or US soccer on any additional training. Anything that happens beyond that is usually club-based, and it's few and far between. So I just want to say that right there.
Yeah.
There's almost no training.
That's crazy.
So compare and contrast that with a team of players like at U10. you may have a team who is practicing 2 or 3 days a week with a coach.
Right.
If it's an elite academy, it might be 4 days a week plus games on the weekends. So they've got training from, a coach. They're getting practice. The referee, nothing. They've done this online thing on a computer. They've had this very cursory, course that they go to, and then they're thrown to the wolves. There's a big disparity into training and development that happens for players and even for coaches, I would say, and for referees. So that's the first thing I would say. So the channel that I do and the role that I serve for SoCal Soccer League is just all about education, is trying to fill that gap. But I need parents and I need coaches to understand that your referee, their practice is that U8 game, that U10 game, that U12 game. Okay, that is where they learn. And they learn, by seeing different situations play out. It's one thing to see it on TV, but it's another thing when you're the person on the pitch with the whistle and you're in one space on the field and you've got to make a call. It is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I started as a soccer referee when I was 40, and still, is that a foul? Is that a deliberate pass back? Is that offside? It's like,
Yeah.
it takes a long time. And so we need parents and coaches to, be patient and give these referees time in a positive, supportive environment to see lots of different scenarios and plays so they can start to have the confidence and be able to learn to recognize, different things. And that confidence is difficult, or patience is difficult, but it's necessary because the lack of training they receive.
Yeah. And I think just to build on what you're saying, and what I hear you saying is, let's be lenient in our judgment of these refs in these younger divisions. This isn't, a pro soccer game we're watching. This is a U8 game, U9 game. If we want to have quality reffing when the kids are older and it is more competitive and more intense, right? Let's be lenient at these younger levels and let these refs and these young refs learn so that they can build their skill set and provide us a great game when it actually kind of does matter. You know what I mean?
You are, that is so well said, man. So I just want to remind everyone out there that youth sports, okay, is the most important, least important thing. The least important
Yeah.
thing, okay?
Yep.
Like, it is completely meaningless. And don't give me any crap about my kid plays blah, 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 league, whatnot. Dude, your kid's 9 years old.
Right.
It does not matter. It does not matter whether they win or lose the game. And I will also say 99 times out of 100, okay, and this is like, I wish I had some like proper science on this, but I've watched thousands of games, man. Okay, I've officiated thousands of games. 99 times out of 100, it is the players in the field who determine the outcome of the match, not a referee.
Yeah.
Like, you can have a call that might affect an outcome of the game, but I promise you, if anyone's being intellectually honest and objective when they watch back the film and they count the 100 missed passes, when they count the 25 missed shots,
Yep.
when they count the goalkeeper literally letting the ball just go through their legs into the goal, whatnot, and then they want to complain about one potential penalty that could have been called by a referee or something like that. It's just, please, man,
Right.
focus on, the kids and their development. And that includes the development of those young referees, who do need training and do need feedback, but they don't need it for some biased coach or biased parent who has, no knowledge of how to be a proper mentor, comes off as someone as a deranged lunatic and scares people away. Number one reason why we lose referees, and we have an outrageous 80% turnover rate of our referees, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy of having poor refereing because you have such high turnover. But the number one reason is abuse from parents, and the number two reason is abuse from coaches.
Yeah.
Okay, that's got to stop.
It's terrible. I think everybody that's probably listening or viewing it, youth sports has seen this constantly, this abuse. And I mean, no offense when I say this, but I literally tell my players, let's not even pay attention to the refs. Like, they're
Right.
they're basically part of the field of play, right? Like, let's ignore them. If a call doesn't go our way, ignore it and keep playing, because that's all part of the game. Other than, a polite thank you for the game at the end of the match, right? It's let's ignore them for now and just play our game, because it's up to us to win or lose this thing.
Absolutely. And it doesn't help anyone.
No.
Complaining about a call is extremely damaging. If you're a player, it's bad. You want to develop players who are resilient and can immediately get focused on the next play.
Yeah.
If they lose focus and they complain or they're whine or they're pouting about a call, well, that's not a good thing. I mean, they're letting their team down.
Yeah.
If you're a coach, okay, and you're complaining about a call, guess what? 99.99% of the time, a referee is not going to change a call, okay? And your yelling at a referee is not going to encourage them to make more calls for you. If anything, you might have a referee who's like, dude, I hope they lose this game. I mean, let's be honest, we're dealing with humans here, okay? No one's going to want to make calls for you if you're giving them shit. Excuse my language. But I would say as a coach, if you're complaining about calls, you're a leader. Okay.
100%.
You are a leader
Yes.
to those kids, and you have to demonstrate the behaviors that you want the kids to have. I mean, I think Emma Hayes, our U.S. women's national team coach, you saw this last Tuesday night, Brazil versus United States, in her comments post-match. It's like, she's like, I can't control the ref. I can't control the other coaches. What I can't control is my behavior.
Yes.
What I can control, is the example I set for my players and the behaviors that I want my players to demonstrate, and that's what a leader does.
Yeah.
So if you are a parent or you are a coach and you are yelling at the ref, two things. Number one, you should expect that the players are going to do the same thing because they're going to emulate your behavior. And now they're going to have a victim mindset that the outcome of the game is not based on their behavior, the players, and their ability to execute and their ability to defend and their ability to, work hard and all those types of things. They're now going to think that they're losing or they lost because of a referee decision, which we all know, intellectually, all know, if we're being honest with ourselves, is not true.
No, it's not. And I love your point because the coach definitely sets the tone for the atmosphere on the bench and with the parents. You're spot on. Like if a coach is, hammering a ref or complaining, then the players feel like they can do it. And then that fires up the sideline too. And so it's like, if I could have any coach take away something from this, it's monitor your own sideline and your emotions on what's happening. And if you see a parent getting out of line, maybe don't yell at them at that point, but a conversation after the game that type of behavior is unacceptable because it's going to hurt you in the long run.
Here's what you do. So you set the bar at the beginning of the season. You say, hey, look, here's what I'm going to do. Practices, I'm going to try and teach the kids how I want them to play. Whether it's the formation, whether it's certain patterns of play that we want to do, whether it's certain behaviors that I want them to do on the field. I want to teach them how to talk to each other, how to think before they receive the ball, what they're going to do with the ball. That's what I'm going to do in practice. When it comes to games, I'm going to be quiet while they're playing because I don't want to confuse them. And I'm going to ask you guys not to confuse them either. I don't want you to yell, shoot, pass, clear, whatever, because you're joysticking them and you're cheating them of learning, okay? And you're going to confuse them because they're hearing you say something when they might see something else they want to do on the field. Second thing, I will give them instruction at a stoppage of play, but I only want me as the coach to give instruction. If you want to sign up to be a coach next year and you want to coach, then please coach. But I only can have them listening to one person for instruction. Third thing, if I hear you joysticking your child on the field, yelling at the referee about decisions, or gosh forbid, yelling something disparaging to a child on our team or another team, your kid sits immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
You don't have to yell across the field and tell them to be quiet. You just, next stoppage of play, you sub out little Johnny or little Jill, and they just come sit.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And that is it. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter who the kid is, if they're the best kid on the team, whatever. You just have them sit, whatever it's for, a half of the game or, for 10 minutes, whatever. The kid comes out and sits, and that's it. And then you just, again, as a reminder post, practice, you just said, hey, a reminder to all parents, here's the how we're going to do, what I want to hear from you as a parent. I want to hear encouragement. I want to hear, clapping for good plays. If you see, the other team's goalie make a great save, say, great save.
Absolutely.
If you see a great pass, great idea, love that. If you see the kids working hard, love the effort, great job. If there's a call that doesn't go your way, say, don't worry about it. Keep your head up.
That's right.
Let's go.
That's right.
That's what we want parents to do at youth sports. I want the parents to be spectators and supporters. I want the coach to be able to coach at the appropriate time. And I want the refs to be able to ref, okay? And if we can do all of those things, and again, refs got to, participate too and do the best job they possibly can. But if we can create an environment where all three of those,
Yeah.
key components are
That's
functioning
yeah.
well, it will be a great experience for the kids on the
Yeah,
field.
that's what success looks like, I think, for a good youth sport outing. I mean,
Yes.
any sport outing. So let's run an experiment here. I'm gonna tell you. So I mentioned that we kind of teach to kind of ignore the ref a little bit, and I very very rarely will challenge or talk to a ref even during a
Yep.
game because it's just happening, and that's what it is. But let's say there's been a couple times where I haven't understood a call, disagreed with a little bit.
Mhm.
Here's my
Mhm.
approach I'm going to go through, and I'd like you to tell me if that's a good approach or maybe you have some tips to how to challenge a referee, let's say challenge or like just talk to about a play. So there's been a couple times where, I thought there was a flagrant foul or something happened and I just asked the ref, "Hey, what are you seeing there so that I
Mhm.
know in the future that this is not the right play," right? So one of my players got completely trucked over in a game, right? And I was like, what's going on? He was crying, he was down. So I'm walking on the field, very calm. These players happen, right? These boys get super physical. It's soccer,
What age group are we
so,
dealing
so
with?
this is U11,
Okay.
U11, right? A lot of emotions on the field, kids crying, they ran into each other. And I just asked the ref, "Hey, what are you seeing here so that I can teach these players that
Mhm.
this is right or this is wrong?" So basically, my
Mhm.
question to you is
Mhm.
that the right way to approach a ref?
Yep.
Do you have any
Yep.
tips on how to possibly
Yep.
successfully
Mhm.
talk to a ref or challenge a call
Yep.
in a game?
I want to, again, the premise, challenge a call. Okay. You're never going to get a referee to change a call,
No, never.
ever, ever. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't even think about that, especially when we're talking about physical challenges. Like they're not all of a sudden going to say, "Oh, you're right. I do think it's a foul."
Yep.
No, it's just not going to happen. I've seen things on procedure. It's, hey, I like someone's like, I think you're awarding an indirect free kick should be a direct or something like that. But, oh, you're right. Because of whatever. Like procedural things, I see things that people might make a change, but no one's going to change their offside call or they're going to change a foul call or something like that. So we're not challenging a call. What I would encourage you to do is with the student's heart. And again, people love to help teach. And so, I would say, ref, can you help me understand what you saw there? You know,
Yeah. And
that's all. Just like, can you help me understand what you saw, on there's no foul. Yeah, okay, I understand, but help me understand why you felt that way.
yeah, and I
And I just
yeah,
like to try and see, what they saw there. Because again, so where you are on the field, Brad, is going to be a completely different angle from where the
absolutely.
referee is on the field,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So you could be literally on complete other sides of a play. And the referee may say, I saw the player, come in, from, the front, they hit the ball and there was like incidental contact after whatever. They may have a completely different perspective. And I think that's legit. It may completely look like a foul to you. It may not look like a foul to them, but just try and understand. I've also had, coaches too, who will be upset with me when I call a foul and they're like, it's shoulder to use a shoulder. It's shoulder to shoulder. I'm like, no, dude, it was shoulder to back.
Yeah.
It's like, call about that. It's like, I saw him put his shoulder through the back. Or, maybe it was shoulder to shoulder. Okay. And for me, they use too much force.
Yeah.
It's like they still have to have some care for their opponent. So I felt like it was too much force. And that might be something too. Like a referee may say, hey, I felt like it was shoulder to shoulder. It was like, it's okay. I appreciate that. It seemed like there was a lot of force in the challenge.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tell someone you made the wrong call because they're going to immediately put up a wall,
Yep.
right? Now you're having an argument. You just say, okay, I appreciate that. I feel like there was a lot of force in the challenge in a nice, calm tone of voice. And then they might think about that. Like, yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe I should call a foul on that next time it happens. But if you go in as a student seeking to understand, as opposed to trying to challenge and change a call, it's going to work out much better for you.
There you go. That's perfect. And I'm gonna steal your student's heart comment. I like that because you go in with educational purposes, not for trying to get a call
Yeah.
reversed type of goals. Right.
Absolutely. So again, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Right? When
Great.
the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that's a challenge. Like coaches, they think they have to fight against a referee, to get a call. So if you set up a situation where you're combative,
That
then there's no room to have conversation.
right.
There's no room to have dialogue. No one feels comfortable having a conversation. Like I'm never, ever going to talk to a coach who is just trying to yell information at me
No.
or to challenge me. It's there's only one ref on the field. That's not happening. Like I can't, There can't be 10 refs out here. There's just one. So if you have a legitimate question, I'm happy to give you an answer. And I always say that in my pregame to teams as well as, hey, again, if you have a legitimate question out there, please feel free to ask. Use the same calm tone of voice I'm using with you right now. I got all day for you. What I would say there is I can't stop in the middle of play and explain something, but at the next stoppage of play, like a substitution, something like that, or we have a dead ball, if you've got a question, happy to answer. So again, just try and go in with a student's heart, and then you'll find that the referee is going to be much more open and feel comfortable providing some insight on what they saw and what they called.
Yeah,
or didn't call.
Who's challenging a ref. And I've got experience with this too. There's a couple players on my soccer team, kids who automatically throw their hands up if something doesn't go their way, or they chirp a little bit at the ref. And I told you my mantra on our team is let's ignore the ref for the most part, right? And just assume that they're part of the field of play. I cannot stand when I get players that are chirping at the ref, because like you've just gone through, there is nothing positive that comes out of somebody yelling at a ref or complaining to a ref.
Right.
And so, from your perspective, what are some things that coaches can do differently to help get that player under control, when they're maybe losing it? I don't want to say losing it, but when they're a little bit more vocal on the field, what do you think coaches could do to help that out?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's so interesting. I mean, I think can benefit. Like, one of the great things about sport, whether you're a ref or you're a coach or you're a player or whatnot, is practicing mindfulness and being present in the moment, like giving them habits of things that they can do to be able to get themselves ready for the next play. So when they are feeling, upset and emotional, can they take a deep breath and take a few steps and ground themselves back into where they need to be focused on the next play, and even have words to themselves. Like, there might be a phrase that, you give them to practice to themselves in their head while they're taking that deep breath, such as like, focus on the next play, focus on the next play, focus on the next 5 minutes, whatever it is, be the best you can be for the next 5 minutes.
Right.
And I think that's really important. I mean, I know as a referee, I've had moments in time where, I felt I maybe made a couple bad decisions in a row. Like, I got a couple throw-in decisions wrong, or, I pointed the wrong way on a foul. And then you're just trying to cleanse and just trying to take a deep breath and be like, okay, come back. Okay, let's get focused on the next play. Let's be great on the next play. Let's be great, for the next 5 minutes, whatever it is. I'm just going to focus on the next 5 minutes. And you just want to, whatever you can do is to try and get them to be present. You can't change other people. You can't change how other people are going to react, or other people, what calls they're going to make. All you can do is be the best that you can be. All you can do is take control of you. You can't let someone else, one thing I always tell my kids, don't let someone else set your emotions. No one's in control of how you feel.
That's right.
You're in control of how you feel.
Yep.
Okay. You decide, am I going to be happy today? Am I going to be positive today? Am I going to have a good attitude, or am I going to have a bad attitude? Okay. That is strength. And I would just, again, I don't want to frame it in a negative and say, when you pout, that's weakness. You don't want to do that, because then it gets in their head. But I would just encourage it. Strength is taking responsibility for your actions. Strength is, being strong in the face of adversity. Strength is, being resilient when things don't go your way. And start framing it up as, that's what I want to see. That's what we all want to see. And that's what we want to see out of our teammates. And I would also say to your teammates, guys, if you see one of your teammates who is having a bad moment and losing their composure and get upset, pick them up. Okay, that's what a great teammate is. That's a strong teammate.
Yeah.
So it just starts setting these conditions, for what we want to see, but also making sure that they understand that they are in control. Okay, referee's not in control of how you feel. You're in control of how you feel, and starting to set that as the right mindset for success.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we talk about, hey, you're allowed to be frustrated, right? If you don't like the call, we understand, we're all human. But let's turn that frustration into focusing on the play. Go get the ball back, right? Go get a shot.
That's right.
Make a good pass. Like you're saying, right? Pick up your teammates. Just get back in the play right away and go after it, and turn it in. That negative thing into a positive thing. So I'm right.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing too. It's like, again, it's not about, and truly, everyone thinks this is so trite saying this, winning or losing. It's not. It really doesn't matter. Honestly speaking, if I was speaking to a parent out there and they're wondering which team, should my kid join, you don't want to join the team that's 10-0. Okay? If your kid is not like the superstar best kid, whatnot, or even if your kid is the superstar best kid, you'd like to be on a team that's 5-5, 6-4, 4-6. Okay, because you need your child to learn how to lose, and you need your child to be in a competitive environment. Everyone's always chasing the best team, and they win, and they do this. Like,
Yep.
dude, that's not necessarily great for development, especially as a kid. What I want to be seeing, out of my kids, are they growing and developing every game? Again, it's not about, they could be down 5-0, but if they do a great job of, working on their first touch, one touch passing, 1-2s, they put together 6 different 1-2 passing combinations in the game. That's wonderful. If they, deliver 4 or 5 early crosses into the penalty area, if they, again, do a wonderful job on, getting shots on goal, even if they didn't score, but they've put, 15 shots on the keeper, whatnot. That's fantastic. And we should be focused on those types of things, because that is, really what's going to determine, are they successful in the sport long term? If we're only judging things on wins and losses in a game, don't be surprised if your kid doesn't want to play anymore after U12.
Well, yeah,
Right?
it's confidence building too, because you want those small wins that they can
That's
focus
right.
on, right? If scoring a goal or winning a game is the only measure that they have to build themselves up, they're gonna fail, right? Like, as adults, we
Oh,
know that,
totally.
right? Every day,
Yeah.
there's no way that, how many jobs have you applied for and lost out on,
Yeah.
right? There's just
Oh
things
my
in life
gosh.
that come up that help build your confidence as you go, and you gotta focus on those small things, right? Just like you
Yes.
said, the pass, the shot,
Yeah.
being a good teammate, whatever those
Yeah.
things are, those are wins, and we need to recognize
Yeah.
those too.
And by the way, soccer is a absolutely cruel game where the best team could have 20 shots on goal and
Yeah,
not
right.
score, and then the team who, obviously isn't playing well, but all of a sudden they get a lucky penalty kick, or they get a long free kick that just somehow goes over the keeper's, hands or something like that, and they win 1-0. Like, again, if you're just judging on wins and losses, you're going to have a really, unhealthy relationship with this
Absolutely.
game is about so much more. It is about teamwork, and it's resilience, and it's like strategy and awareness and agility and adaptability, and it's physical, but it's also about quickness, and technique. There's so many things that can be done and can enjoy, and I think those are the things, if we can just get them focused on, be in the moment, focus on that next pass and a good first touch, focus on being in the right position, focus on communication, with your team, focus on that work rate, on really closing someone down and causing a turnover, like all of those type of things. You can get them focused on, those micro wins, like you just said, get the ball back.
Yeah.
That's like a simple thing is, hey, let's get that ball back. How quickly can we get that ball back, and celebrate that, and encourage the parents to be looking for those things too, those little small wins, whatnot. You'll be setting up a really positive environment. And again, you've got someone who's going to fall in love with the game and want to participate in the game for the rest of their life. If we hyper fixate on wins and losses or referee decisions, all that's going to create is an environment of toxicity.
That's right.
And we're going to lose kids who do not want to participate in team sports, which is honestly like you're just cheating people out of some of the most important lessons that they can get, not just as a player, but as a human being in life.
Right, and some of their most fun moments that
Oh,
they should look back on these things very fondly, right? That should be the ultimate goal.
absolutely.
So
1,000%.
so David, imagine you could instill one new rule for sidelines of youth sports tomorrow. What's one rule you would instill on the sideline? And that let's say, hey, it could be a rule for the players in the bench sideline or
Mhm.
the parent sideline, right?
Mhm. I mean, there's a couple things. So again, we haven't discussed this, but I am the director of referee program and development for the largest soccer league in the United States, in SoCal, Southern California. And so we do get to put policies and procedures in place out there. So we do have a sideline setup where the actual parents sit on the same side as the field as the coach. So the coach can hear what the parents are saying, and
Okay.
also you can see which parents are causing issues, which team's parents, and the referees are able to work without anyone sitting behind them. So they're on one side of the sideline, the parents on the other side of the sideline. It helps a great deal. I don't like, there's so many issues where you've got parents of different teams sitting together and someone says something and someone crying, and then there's like a fight. It's the most toxic juvenile crap ever.
Yeah.
I'd love to get, different field setups. That's one thing. The second thing is just, it's not a rule, but I just want parents to not be directing anyone else on the field. I don't want them, and I mentioned this earlier, they shouldn't be trying to coach, they shouldn't be trying to joystick, and they shouldn't be trying to critique the referee. I just wish they would just focus on being parents. And again, I really encourage people, at the beginning of the year and throughout the year, reminding the parents, here are the phrases I want to hear from you. I want to hear, clapping. I want to hear cheering. I want to hear celebrating, great soccer plays, no matter who does them on the field, even if it's for an opponent. I want you to keep a positive, supportive environment. That is important. I want you to pick the kids up when they're down. I want you to encourage them. I want you to celebrate the things that we are focused on improving here. And if you can do that, we are going to have a great experience. And then when your kid comes off the field, all I want to hear you say to them is, I loved watching you play. I get really emotional because my kids are all grown now.
Yeah.
But I loved watching you play.
Yeah.
Great effort out there today. Loved that great pass that you had. Oh, that shot that you had was unbelievable, whatever that was. Man, that tackle you had over here, that was so great. That's all I want to hear. I just want to hear praise of one or two things that your child did well and how much you enjoyed watching them play. That is it.
Yeah. Nothing
Man,
worse when they
do
come
that.
they come off and you start critiquing them right away. Like you
Oh.
hear some parents and it's like, man, way to beat that kid down. It's just crazy.
Oh, dude. I mean, because post-game, coach is probably going to say something about what they liked and didn't like.
Yeah.
You don't need the parent to do that too. And secondly, dude, you're not the coach, right?
Yeah.
And also, the kid, especially at 11 years old, they know what they did well
Of
and
course.
what they didn't do
Of
well.
course, yeah.
They know they don't need you to remind them of that.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
just literally just create a positive environment, in that ride home.
Yeah.
So that the kid falls in love with the game and sticks with it. I mean, there's so many wonderful that your kid can learn even from a loss. I think my kids have grown so much more through adversity than they have through wins. And again, I'm fortunate that, my kid played in a number of state championships and won high school state championships, but they also lost, right?
Of course.
And they've also gone through times when they were benched, and they didn't get to play and they didn't get picked and they didn't make a team and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, those are the moments that shape successful and resilient adults. And again, it's just embrace it. Take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
If your kid is, down and upset and they've had a loss, don't get upset because they've lost whatnot. Recognize that they are learning a lesson and they're dealing with those emotions. And that is good. All you need to do as a parent is support them, pick them up, take them out, for dinner or go get ice cream or whatever, and just, and tomorrow, the next day, say, hey, you want to go kick it around? You want to go play? Whatever it is, just be supportive. Just be, a positive role model and emulate the behaviors that, you want to see in them as well.
Yeah, and you want to hope that those losses and those things that aren't going their way are those motivational roadblocks that help push them,
Totally.
right? Help push them into the person that they're meant to be and keep pushing them forward and to improve every time that they can.
Dude, man, it's not whether bad things are going to happen to you in life.
Right.
It's how you
Yes.
respond to them.
Yeah.
And that is it. I mean, that's the thing. My kids, my daughter's like, her motto is everything happens for a reason. That's her thing. It's just everything happens for a reason. It is what it is. Let's go forward.
That's great.
My eldest son, he'd been through a lot of adversity. He had some very serious injuries and he was a goalkeeper. And you ask anyone like in this town who played with my son, they go around, and he was in the U.S. Development Academy, like when that was a thing for, before MLS Next. He was a great goalkeeper, but he was 5'8" as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And so there was always some 6'3", 6'4" kid who was
yeah.
coming in, challenging him for a position. He always had to work harder.
Yeah.
He was always the first kid at practice. He was always the last one to leave. He never missed anything. He was there for the games, always picking up his teammates. He was doing every possible thing he could do to make his team better. And he was beloved by his team.
That's awesome.
Because he was a great teammate. Even if you can't be the best player out there, and not everyone is. Not everyone's got, the physical attributes or whatever, or the coordination, or whatever it is, but just be the best freaking teammate you can be, and man, again, you will be, and be resilient and be positive and, be in the moment, stay present, and you will be successful in life.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying, these are the fringe things beyond the skill, right? You could be the most skilled player in the world, but if you don't have these other things, these characteristics, these character traits,
Absolutely.
then, you're missing half the game, I would say.
I did. Listen, we know so many kids who are, have all of the physical gifts, all like 6'7", massive wingspan, whatever their sport was, and just so many unbelievable physical talents and all this potential. And, they're not in college now, or they've dropped out of college, or they didn't even go to college, or they've just completely become, just a mess because they don't have the right mental attributes. They didn't have the right values instilled in them. And just one thing I'll also say too is like, the kid who is the best player at 10 or 11 or 12 is not going to be the best player at 15 and 16. And it's not going to be the best player at 18, 19, or 20. Okay. That's really important
Yeah.
that people need to know. Don't get fixated on, where your kid is, or are they on the top team, or are they the best team, or are they starting or not. Focus on making sure that you're laying a foundation for success, again, mentally, emotionally, so that, and make sure that they're loving the game, give them the environment they can fall in love with the game, because they might all of a sudden hit a growth spurt. They might all of a sudden like just figure
Yeah.
stuff out,
Something clicks, right?
later in life. You never, yeah, it's really big. The last thing I would just say on that kind of stuff too, which is just so important. So again, I'm a soccer referee, and soccer is, quickly becoming, most popular sport for youth in America to play. And there's been a historical fixation on getting kids college scholarships.
Oh, yeah.
You can forget about that. There is no college scholarship left anymore for the overwhelming majority of American soccer players. So just stop focusing on it. Now, if you go to any D1 school in this country, if they have a starting lineup of 11 players, 9 of them are from overseas. They're 22, 23 years old. They've gone through professional academies. They've tried to get onto a professional team. Maybe they were on, playing in the second or third division in Sweden or Spain or Portugal or Brazil. And now they're coming over to America and having a wonderful time. There's no space anymore for your kid. There's only 9.5 full scholarships
Wow.
on a soccer team for Division One.
Yeah.
9.5.
Right.
Okay. Roster's 24 now. It used to be 30. There's 9.5 scholarships. All of those scholarships are going to kids who have been playing internationally, for the most part, or they are the top percent of MLS Next, maybe ECNL. There's chances, yeah, you can play D2, D3, NAIA. I will tell you the overwhelming majority of kids that we know who played MLS Next and went to these schools to play soccer, they've transferred. They've left. They've just, they didn't go to play, for whatever the school was doing for academics.
Right.
They wound up getting burnt out. They weren't getting play time, and they just eventually were like, okay, now I'm going to go to school to actually go to school.
Yeah.
Just know that the college scholarship thing is a false reality. It's fool's gold. Focus on creating a good human being.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
That is it. If it happens, wonderful.
Yeah.
That they go to college and get some money. That's unreal. If they play for us, that's unreal. But first and foremost, a good human being.
Yeah, which is the stuff
Yeah.
outside of the skill, right? That you're talking about here. It's the things, it's the characteristics, to the hard work, the good teamwork, right? The dedication. I mean, it's
timeliness.
Yes.
Just all of those things.
Yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, we did our 5 questions, and I'd like to slip in one bonus one if it's okay with you.
Go for it.
So I would like to know, in your opinion, what's one thing, or maybe you've seen this, or something you recommend a coach do that instantly can earn respect of the referee or the crew that's reffing a game?
Oh man, I think the pre-match is so important. Like and this is a big thing for me, as a referee, but I think it's a really important thing that coaches can do as well. Before the match begins, go introduce yourself and be very conscious that everyone in that crew is getting the same level of respect as well. We have one of the big complaints that I hear from young female referees is that coaches, even though there's an older man who might be on the crew or a teenage boy as opposed to a girl, all of a sudden the coaches always go up assuming that the boy or the man is the when it might actually be the young woman. So please greet everyone, shake hands, get names. How you doing? What's going on? How's everything going for? Whatever it is. But build a relationship pre-match and some rapport so that you have the ability to have a question during the match. If the first interaction you have with a referee is something you're upset about, it makes it really hard to communicate. So I would just do that, before the match even begins is really important. And then again, if something does happen with a parent in the match, don't wait for the referee to have to address that parent. Refs really, they want to get the game in, they want to move forward.
Yeah.
If you're hearing a parent losing control, address the parent.
Yeah.
Just yell across the field, like, hey, parents, enough,
Yeah.
no more, whatever it is. That's all you usually need to do. And no one likes getting called out like that. You don't have to call them up a name, but just like, parents, stop. Please stop. That would be wonderful. We'd really appreciate it. A lot of referees, especially teenage referees, they don't feel comfortable. They've never in their life had to tell a parent, to behave
For sure.
themselves,
Yeah.
an adult to behave themselves. There's a power imbalance there. So just, please take action on that to try and help create a positive, supportive environment for everyone on the pitch. Because again, a parent yelling at a referee affects everyone.
Yeah.
It affects all of the other parents because emotions are contagious. Your kids are now going to start thinking that the referee is against them and they're not getting a call and they're not going to be in the right mentality, whatnot. The other parents in the other team might start chirping too. And then all of a sudden you've got a referee feeling attacked. They're like, I don't need to deal with this. I'll go find a job, doing something else. Gosh, I can flip burgers and make the same amount of money. I don't need to be coming to dealing with this
For
kind of
sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
So just help us create a positive, supportive environment. It starts right at check-in.
That's awesome. Well, David, that's all the questions I have for you today. I think, I'd love to tap into your brain more, but I know I need to let you go. You've got some World Cup stuff coming up here. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for all your content. I will personally be continuing to look at everything and learn from you, and I hope everybody else listening does as well. Help me out. Where can people find more of your materials and get engaged with you a little bit more?
So I am at Refs everywhere. So again, Refs Need Love 2 TOO on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Yeah, you name it, I'm out there. You could also find me at refsneedlove2.com if you want to find my podcast and my blog. That's there. The podcast you can download anywhere podcasts are found at Refs Need Love 2. So you can find it there. And I would just, encourage people, reach out. If you got a question, I respond to every single message that I get. That's one thing that I've been doing since I started this channel almost 5 years ago, is if someone sends me a DM on Instagram or an email at refsneedlove2@gmail.com, I promise you, send me a play, I'll review it, and I'll give you my honest, objective feedback on it. You may not agree with me, and that's totally cool too, but I'll give you my honest feedback. And so I wish everyone the best, and if there's something I can do to help, just let me know.
That's awesome, David. Thank you so much for being here. And if this episode helped you, share with another coach or parent who's trying to figure things out too. You can find Uncoached and this episode wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch the episode on YouTube, and make sure to follow the Coaching Dad on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. We'll see you next time on Uncoached.
Yeah, step up, time to lead the way for the